Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do beer stuff here. Parabola. I don't remember the last time I had Parabola, to be perfectly honest with you. I've definitely reviewed it before. Might have reviewed it multiple times, but it's been a while since I've had it. I think I did last Firestone Walkers I've done have been there was a tequila barrel age kind of can thing that I did, but I also did a couple anniversaries. I might actually have done a Sukaba, but I don't remember the last time I had Parabola. Love it, dig it, but it's been a while. Saw it on the shelf, figured we'd crack into it. 2023 Parabola, Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels, 13.5%. Story time in the back. If you want to read it, you're more than welcome. I am not going to. Just going to dive right into it. You usually get this nice kind of paperwork, decree of the beer. Apparently that's not a thing anymore. Yeah, they're talking about basically just Firestone Walker stuff, and they talk about Parabola, 12-year-old Weller whiskey barrels, but I'm assuming this is some kind of blend. Here we go. Beer-wise, what do we have here? 2023 Parabola. Is it 10 Plato? Final Gravity. 4,000 cases produced, even though they sell it in individual bottles. Store at 45, serve at 55. It's probably right around probably 50 on the nose. Imperial Stout aged in bourbon barrels. I've always dug on Firestone Walker's labels. They've always reminded me of some fancy high-end scotch or something like that. So, yeah, a little sniffle, but I can smell, I assure you. So let's give this a rough pour. Give it a really rough pour. And honestly, looks quite beautiful, to be perfectly honest with you. Nice kind of vibrant head on that sucker. Big pilly richness, but obviously not over the top, overcarbed, especially how rough I poured it. Pinky finger, malted malt ball, maybe elevated north of that, closer to where I like my coffee to look like color, and just that rich kind of stouty, because that's the word, stouty kind of coloration to it. So yeah, off to a good start. Let's give it a nose. Yeah, it definitely has this nice kind of barrel-aged vibe to it. I mean, you're getting stout on stout on stout. That's the leader in the clubhouse here. You're getting barrel, you're getting spirit, but it really is the rich, decadent stout portion of the show that really kind of shines through, at least aromatically, and then you follow through with that nice kind of spirit component. So, stout, roasted toasty, Russian Imperial level kind of stout component to it, a little bit of bittering from roasted malts, a bit of hoppiness to it, a nice little slightly sweetened kind of chocolatiness to it, and just that roasty toastiness a la kind of like pseudo coffee, but not necessarily going that big with coffee. Barrel wise, you get a nice char on it, you get a nice soft vanilla on it, nothing big like coconut or anything like that, but it's more of that rubbed kind of chocolatiness that I dig on quite so much. And then there's this nice spirit component to it, which is over the top, but you definitely know you're getting a nice kind of pop of whiskey in there. So aromatically, it's giving you all the bits and pieces. If I'm going to compare it to anything, maybe a more refined, it's probably a better way to put it, I was going to say subdued, but more refined version of very much like a BCBS kind of nose on it, but just a little bit more kind of tempered. Let's dive in. Cheers, y'all. And honestly, it really does follow through in a taste very much like that, because you're getting this kind of Russian Imperial Stout, roasted toast, and this kind of barrel-aged stout portion of the show when it comes to the beer. But it lacks a little bit of harshness to it. Maybe a harsh choice of words here, because I would say this is a little bit softer, a little bit more subdued version of what you get from Bourbon County. But not in a negative way, and I'm not calling what you get from Bourbon County in a negative way, just a little bit of variance to it, but very much similar as far as at its ethos, as its core. So like I said, a Russian Imperial Stout base, bittering through and through, definitely from roast malt, definitely from that kind of, there's a fly flying around here, and I'm sure you're all seeing it, and it's driving me insane, but I'm trying to ignore it, because it's not doing anything. I want to kill it. Anyway, train of thought has been lost. We'll get it back. So it has this softness to it. And by softness, I don't mean like it's not impactful. Again, we're talking about a big... I didn't actually call it ABV on this, did I? 30.3% alcohol by volume. Imperial Stout. It's got a more kind of like powdery. Is probably the best way to put it. Like if you drink like cocoa, you drink like chocolate milk or something like that. You make it with like powder, like Nesquik or Swiss Miss, as opposed to syrup. There's just softness, this inherent softness to the mouthfeel, as opposed to that little bit of kind of denser, more thicker kind of mouthfeel you get from that. That's what I'm talking about, the variance between this and Bourbon County. There's a lot of similar notes, a lot of bittering notes, a lot of like whiskey notes, a lot of barrel char notes that are very similar. When you get to the end of things, there's two major sticking points between them, which is Bourbon County Stout, I believe, has this little bit more syrupy, kind of denser mouthfeel to it, and also a bit sweeter. This is a bit softer and a bit more poundier. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody out there. But if we're talking about this beer as its own entity without reference to anything else, nice mouthfeel, fluffy for its ABV, soft for its ABV, barrel char and barrel, definitely oak tannins, a bit more punchier come through, undersweetened, definitely not an overly sweet beer. 13.5% barrel aged stout. It's going to be a sweet beer regardless, but how it perceptually is tasted, you're just not getting this huge sweetness off of it, which is quite nice. And then just lets that kind of whiskey bittering and barrel of the beer shine through. Even though you get those sweeter components, you get those more kind of like desserty components from it, it's probably elevated a bit, or at least a bit subdued in those other components that are a bit less childlike, less sweet, or a bit more elevated in the beer. And it's quite tasty. I don't remember Parabola tasting like this. That's the thing. Maybe it's a little bit of a perception issue. I remember it being a little bit more punchier, a little bit more sweeter. I'm not hating on that. I'm hating on the fact that it's a little bit more kind of softer. But a tasty beer nonetheless. And honestly, it probably a bit of a unique kind of barrel-aged stout, at least in today's kind of like, thick Florida stout, kind of barrel-aged, kind of sweet on sweet kind of barrel-aged beers. It's a bit more adulty, a bit more reserved, a bit like more score bar-y is what I used to say back in the day. For me, as a kid, I loved my Reese's, I loved my M&M's, I loved my Hershey's chocolate, and there were score bars. Score bars was the favorite dessert of my mother. And there was just something about it that was a little bit more tempered, a little bit more kind of less sweet, a little bit more adulty. So I kind of associate all these kind of less over-the-top sweet kind of beers with more of a score bar, and that's where this one kind of lands for me. Still a very tasty beer. I'm not going to sit here and say this is rewriting the books and what makes barrel-aged stout really work for me, but in the grand scheme of things, super tasty, super fun. I'm glad I picked it up. It's been a while. I saw it on the shelf and go, man, let's pick it up. This will be a Master Beer Review Classics, actually. I haven't done one of those, or at least posted one in a while. Been filming a couple that'll come through the shoot quite quickly. And I actually have an anniversary of Firestone Walker in the can, so I don't think I posted it yet. So maybe we'll post those both on the same day. Get you a double dose of Firestone Walker barrel aged goodness, because in the grand scheme of things, once you step back, Firestone Walker, their non-barrel aged selection, I think, is great. The Pivo pills and all the stuff they do on, the hazy side of things, the, lager side of things, the IPA side of things is quite nice. But I think their barrel age program has been and always will be one of the stellar ones in the United States. At least we hope so. And it's something that should be championed. Again, their price point's a little bit steep, especially going from, a larger bottle, smaller bottle, and the price point hasn't changed all that drastically. But in the grand scheme of things, I think they really do stay kind of at the top, if not Mount Rushmore status, elevated towards the top of barrel programs in the United States. And this is showing no different. So there you go. Review in the books. Firestone Walker Parabola is one of the better barrel-aged stouts I've had. It's like, yes. Mount Rushmore status, it definitely kind of... it's up there, but it's not at the top. There's something about it that just leaves me wanting a little bit, and it's hard for me to quantify, so maybe as someone who talks about beer, that's more a me problem than their problem, but adulty barrel-aged stout is where I'd leave that. Value and availability, $10, 12-ounce bottle. Yeah. And leave you with, if you like what we like this. If you like barrel-aged stout, but you always want something a little bit less sweet, a little bit less over the top, you know, just sweet, desserty style, you'll definitely do this. So there you go. We're reviewing the books. Hopefully you enjoyed. Firestone Walker, have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you been to their festival? That's what I really want to go to. As someone who's never been to California, nor been on a plane, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but I really want to get to their Firestone Walker Festival. Have you had this beer? Have you had this beer originally? Back in the old school days? Have you had it now? Everything in between. Your thoughts. All that fun stuff down there. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of barrel-aged stout right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers, y'all.